Okay, I just have to get recording this thing because if I spend another day putting it off, I will rewrite the list. Welcome to the 10th iteration of Sam's favourite 50 Doctor Who TV stories. Today's goal is the flip side of a video we previously did, where I tried to find one saving grace in the 50 worst. This time it's one flaw in the 50 best. Nothing is perfect, and finding the good in the bad and the bad in the good is kind of why I like shows like Doctor Who to begin with. To get through this one, there will be no ban on praise. No, I feel like I kind of have to justify why they're in a list like this. My taste is a little bit eccentric and all over the place. I'm putting that degree to use, I think, and we are getting critical. Honourable mentions. Fires of Pompeii. Nuts that isn't on here. In my head, when I think of Fires of Pompeii, that's one of the best ones to ever do it. There's no Unearthly Child in here. Please see my video on that. The Empty Child, The Rescue, and The Husbands of River Song. People really like The Doctor Falls as well. No, sorry, none of that's in this list. There are 60 years of shows. Raise my taste. Blast my ass. What matters is that I get through this in a relatively short amount of time and hit export. Number 50, The Mysterious Planet. I have such high respect for this one on paper. I think it's a clever script no matter what decade it comes out, but it did come out in the 80s when Doctor Who was very worse for wear. It looked bare bones, it looked cheap. It looked cheap almost inherently. The first part of Trial of a Time Lord, for all of its wit and clever Rob Holmes decisions, looks ugly as sin. Every single criticism you can throw at a classic series adventure is present here. Overlit, boring white corridors, generic future humans with silly uniforms and silly guns. We're shooting in just some forest as well. Usually I'm happy to be on location, but this is just cheap, isn't it? This does pretty drastically impact the viewing experience. Mysterious Planet is not visually compelling. It's a little bit embarrassing. Abominable Snowman is the best Target novelization ever. It's fantastic. I went a couple years thinking it was one of the best Doctor Who stories of all time, instead of being the 49th best Doctor Who story of all time. And this is because when I saw it at the BFI animated, I realised that it's a very long, awkward story, and it's often very cold, if you pardon the irony. What Abominable Snowmen is crying out for is a bit of incidental music. God, it feels like I'm meditating in a Tibetan monastery. And it sounds like that would be quite apt, quite fitting. No, there is so much of this that is just dead air, where nothing is happening, or a scene is unnecessarily unengaging. Abominable Snowman has no soundtrack. Get some of my battle monks chanting and singing songs. Racially insensitive or no, hey, I'll do it. And as a result, it really was a big disappointment finally seeing Abominable Snowmen off the page, and I'm not keen to revisit it. That first impression it made was so strong. 48, Colony in Space. Okay, a bit trickier now. I think Colony in Space is not an obvious good story. It did take somebody else explaining their love for it to really get me in any way passionate about it. That's not a flaw. That's just fandom in full effect. But ultimately, the biggest flaw of Colony in Space is that there's no real human context. Because, again, the story is pretty cold. This time it doesn't have that much patience. Curiosity for the inner lives of the sidecast. There are workers and there is the company. And again, reading the Target novelization, which is the superior version, it fills in some of those blanks. And you have pros doing some real heavy lifting. On TV, I couldn't tell you the first thing about these guys. It all seems very stiff. I think it's the performances, I do think it is the script, and I think it's a workmanlike shooting schedule that results in pretty uninspired emotional disconnect. This is a workers' rights story. This is a colonization settler tale. There is so much drama in that, and the 70s, or let's face it, the classic show in general, is really resistant to ever tap into that. In my opinion, yeah, often to its detriment. A sentiment detriment. 47, the one and only appearance of Mr. Ncuti Gatwa at Church on Ruby Road. It never got better than this. Church on Ruby Road is so confident. I know it's the most rogue entrance into this list, but this one really works on me. It has so much bravado and gusto. It's got budget on screen, and I believe it. I believe that this is going to be a bold, bright new era that brings everyone back. The Davina McCall joke is something only Russell T Davies could find topical or funny. But the real weak link of Church on Ruby Road is the second act, and you know exactly what I mean, because it lands Ruby perfectly. Fun Doctor, fun new villains. So where are they? The Doctor's barely in Act 1, yeah, that's fine. And then the goblins disappear from the script for a long time. There was a deleted scene where goblins attacked Ruby's place, and I can't unsee that because for budget reasons they replaced that with a crack in the ceiling. And it's like, yeah, no, you needed some action there. You really did. So I think working around that was a massive mistake. I enjoy the timeline with no Ruby. It makes its point really cleverly. But I'm missing out on these goblins. I'm missing out on sacred screen time for Gob Dylan. And it's the only thing that stops Church on Ruby Road from being a certified forever classic. Genuinely, that's an opinion that I hold. 46. Snake Dance. Easy. It's the editing. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Snake Dance is edited so amateurishly. I don't know anything about the production of this. I don't know if it was always meant to be that way, but you're intercutting constantly between the Doctor Companion, Doctor Companion, Doctor Companion. And some of these segments last, no joke, 20 seconds. You get dizzy, especially when you go back to the Doctor and whatever slightly gay pantomime shit he's up to, and nothing's advanced, and you get dizzy. Snake Dance is very close to being perfect. 45. The Deadly Assassin. You could say, I wouldn't say this, that turning the Time Lords into the House of Lords can be laid at the feet of this story. But I think it makes sense in Deadly Assassin. I think it's fine. I don't think this is reflective of all Time Lord society. I think these are just the stuffy stooges in the stuffy stooge political era of Gallifrey. I think the weak link is, well, the villain's crap. By the way, can we just say Goth? Goth. Who are you, Goth? The aforementioned Deadly Assassin is the most forgettable part of the story. And it's him in the Matrix trying to kill the Doctor constantly. I got nothing on him. And it's for that reason I think everything after the Matrix, when they leave the Matrix, my interest dwindles and my memory of the story gets so hazy. The Master and the Doctor have a bit of a wrestle down some stairs. I think Deadly Assassin loses all of its steam and goes for a generic polystyrene set falling apart finale. 44. The Infinite Quest. I really rate this thing. I don't know if it counts. I really rate this thing. Because it was made of sections, you can always see where the segments begin and end. Watching it as one full experience is very, honestly, schizophrenic. I'm a fairly paranoid man, and the Infinite Quest reflects my own life where I'm jumping at my own shadow, and there's a cliffhanger every 2 minutes. So yeah, you can pretty much say goodbye to pacing, but that's not how it was intended to be seen. The Infinite Quest is fantastic. You all sleep on it. But yeah, if that doesn't count, let's say The Face of Evil. Let's put The Face of Evil here. Part 3. I have sat down to watch Evil with, like, laser focus. And every single time I watch the story, I grey out on part 3. And then I lock back in for part 4. I don't know what it is about it. It's a real slump. I could take a fine comb to it, But on the whole, I know that just nothing really progresses. It feels like a time sink, it feels like a waste. Especially when some episodes in this serial look so pretty. A drop-dead gorgeous production just goes generic for one episode when they go onto the fucking ship. Grey spaceship interiors. Get me away from them, classic Who. I'm gonna kick off. 43, Flatline. Now, this is the first hard one. Flatline I don't think would be in anyone's top 10 ever, but for life of me I can't think of a flaw. I think Series 8 kind of has the feminist revolution of the show. Yes, namely Kill the Moon, but just in general, Clara being as equal a main character as Doctor Who. And then Flatline is a bit of a weird addition. It's not wrongly placed in the series, but it's a very patriarchal master and student dynamic in this story. I know that Clara is gonna go on to become more Doctor Who-like, to her death even. So it's clever to introduce that, but right after Kill the Moon? I don't know, I just feel like we got a big feminist liberation and then we're back to 7th Doctor and Ace stuff. I appreciate it, I just think we could have rethought the order of it a bit. Clara is pining to be more like the Doctor. She's in love with the promise of Doctor Who just as much as he is. But I think you could say that the teacher-student relationship in this is a weird patronising development in that journey. Absolutely works for Flatline. Don't know what it's doing at this point in the series. 42, the Doctor's wife. There's only one thing I've got, and it's the fact that it's become a bit of an embarrassment to place on this list, right? This is not a cool addition to have. I don't like talking about this story anymore, for reasons completely out of Stephen Moffat and the story's control. You overhear things about the Doctor's wife that more of it is Moffat than you probably think, and I do believe that, but yeah, gross associations. Yeah, thanks Gaiman, we'll take it from here. Guess we'll reclaim this and all. Death of the author? Please God, let it be literal. But if that's the best I've got, I think that goes to show how good Doctor's wife is. 41, Smith and Jones. You're sleeping on this one too, guys. I used to, cherish this script. I printed it off as a kid. I studied it. It was so formative. I think it's perfect. Which is unfortunate for a video like this. Oh, it only has to be small, doesn't it? Maybe Florence is the weak link. I don't want to say it. It's a Russell T Davies villain. Even down to the choice in actress. Yeah, listen, I like a bit of camp like anyone. But a vampire lady who drinks with a straw, disguised as an old lady, with two sexy leather men, killed a princess. It's a lot of flavour text, isn't it? No real substance. But Sam, it's episode 1. The villain's meant to be a bit filler. Yeah, no, I don't know if I buy that. It's a pretty weak excuse in my books. And yeah, I don't like Florence as much as everything else going on. Lame, maybe. May I go as far to say lame? Oh, I don't know if I even bought that myself. 40. It's Genesis of the Daleks. Okay, listen, I've said so much good about Genesis of the Daleks. I have, on this channel. Tom Baker takes a back seat. Michael Wisher dominates a story. The world map is fleshed out and thorough, and you get such a good sense of the geography. I think by the time you come to episode 6, you've done so much base hopping. You're so well acquainted with each corridor and the space between everything that it all starts feeling very small and cute. I know it's just like some trenches, so they technically would not be that far apart, but they are casually coming and going. So all of the mystique that you get in the first few episodes, which are very exploration based, I guess that's the point of exploration, getting familiarized with everything, but the world just shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. There's fast travel all over this thing, but loads of my favourite stories are fast travel. I don't think I mind that. Shut up, Sam. You could have moved on already. No, okay, what else is there about Genesis of the Daleks that doesn't work? Shockingly little. Oh, the Daleks. This story is character focused. It is. It's plotty, but it's about character. I don't expect much nuance from Daleks, but I think we need a bit more as to why they turn against their creator so quickly. Yes, I understand that they are creatures born of intolerance. Maybe they don't want to say the disability part out loud for a Nazi parallel. You know what I mean by that, I think. But just, I think a little bit more, because it makes Davros look very, very stupid. But I think there's a missing beat between creation and creator. If Genesis of the Daleks just had a little bit more time for the Daleks themselves, we might have a better idea of why the story ends in the way it does. Potential. There was a little bit more potential to be squeezed out of Genesis of the Daleks, in my honest opinion. Even just for the allegory. Would have been cool. 39, Heaven Sent. Oh. Listen, I do love Heaven Sent, like 39th favourite story. Love Heaven Sent. But I feel like it's your favourite. I don't feel like Heaven Sent belongs to me. I don't like it because you like it. I like it because it's arguably Stephen Moffat's most impressive accomplishment with the programme. At least, superficially, it seems like it should be. The biggest flaw of Heaven Sent is that it is one part of a two-part story. The only thing I can fault Heaven Sent with is kind of sabotaging its follow-up. I love Hellbent. I have such a interesting relationship with this episode. I've come around on it completely. But I don't like that fans separate them so drastically. They are the same story. It's a complete fan-made revision that I do not care for. And arguably, Heaven Sent is showing off so much, it's so its own contained thing, that it does set the next one up for failure. It doesn't fail. Hellbent is not a failure, it's not a different story. But Heaven Sent sure does act like it, doesn't it? The satisfaction, the power fantasy of Heaven Sent is so compelling, so inspiring, and so fucking genuine. You feel it so much as an audience that next week when you have to walk it back and you're told that this was nothing but a unnecessary act of self-harm, it's hard to do. I understand. Heaven Sent did a bit too much of a good job that it is intentionally fighting next week's episode. And it's clever if you know that and give both parts a chance, but so many of us didn't on broadcast. It's an unflattering part one, not just because it's good, but because it takes all the glory for itself. It's a story that doesn't want you to be critical yet, but episodically we look at them like different stories because it's TV. As a result, I'd say a large percentage of the fan base miss out on what truly makes Heaven Sent so great. It's what's being said, but it's also largely what hasn't been said. Until next week. 38. Under the Lake. Again, I am just like grabbing individual stories. I did the same thing last time. Ironically, I'm breaking stories up and treating them differently now. I don't know, it just makes it easier, because Under the Lake's the fucking best Base Under Siege ever. So refreshing, and then part 2 does not inspire joy. It loses Davis. Again, I think it's the same thing. It's the same thing as Heaven Sent. Under the Lake does all the cool stuff. All of the potential of the premise. Part 1 is already done. So you kind of have to jump location. Some say that's the real flaw of Last Jedi, is that it does everything. One of the earlier installments has used up all of the story potential, so now we have to go and do something else. I think that's the only fair criticism of Last Jedi, by the way. Yeah, same. Jinx. Twinsies. 37. Father's Day. This one has really jumped up since I saw it at the BFI. To this day, I regret not asking a question in the Q&A and just saying like, hey, everyone in this audience thinks this is an unmitigated 10 out of 10. I had that question in my head. I was going to ask the crew, is there anything on your end that you would have changed that you don't think has aged well? And I wish I'd asked, because I'm drawing nothing. Father's Day, even though it's not the most obvious, leaps to mind, best story ever, Yeah, no, it's perfect. I got nothing. Cornell and Russell T Davies got this Back to the Future, punch in the gut, down to a fine art. It is an optimal 45 minutes of telly. Don't touch the baby. Is there maybe something more interesting for Jackie to do in the story? No, not really. Is there any weak link performance? No, there is not. The best I've got is just later stories tarnishing this one a bit. The idea that you can't change history because everybody matters is really profound, is wonderful drama. The best possible answer to the question. But that's other stories later on that walk over that a bit. It's not Father's Day. Oh my god, yeah. Maybe there is some truth that by this point in the series, the Doctor has not saved the day. Really, at all. End of the world, maybe. World War III, maybe. And that one's a stretch. I don't think it's a problem per se. I definitely didn't mind as a kid, but there is a real pattern of Doctor Who having to be saved. He's not the agent of the finale in really any episode. Even up until Passing of the Ways, actually. That's funny. The Ninth Doctor's ineptitude. This is weak. 36. Remembrance of the Daleks. Remembrance of the Daleks is very trundly. For a story that is so impressive visually, like there's great effect work in this. You know there is. Pyrotechnics, landing spaceships. Remembrance is kind of stunning. And then you actually get to the Daleks themselves and they are as trundly as ever. Was there really no way to make them move a bit smoother? I think of Dalek Invasion of Earth and they were more menacing in that, right? Gliding along the Thames as opposed to Shoreditch's cobbled streets. The Daleks are like, they're pounding all over the place, man, come on. They look very small, they look very sweet, going about the streets of London. Could they not get these murder trolleys under control? What a nightmare for the production that must have been, when they were saddled with, this week we're taking the Daleks out and about in London. Hey, there's really obvious reasons why we do not do that, gang. Can we just blow them up at least? When everything else is firing on every cylinder, I think this is genuinely a bit of a weak link. 35. The sound of drums. If this was Last of the Time Lords, I would already be on to the next one, but Sound of Drums is a lot trickier. It doesn't set a single foot wrong, does it? Okay, it's time to start busting out the cop-outs, really nitpicks, otherwise we're going to be here all day. The Sound of Drums has a really crap resolution to last week's cliffhanger. There's nothing interesting, there's no subversion, it's kind of just a bit of a shrug to get us going into the pre-title stinger. One of the characters has an instant transport time travel device on his wrist. That is obviously how they get out of trouble. But the cliffhanger was so good that it is an anticlimax. I think you care about this for approximately 15 seconds and then the sound of drums starts. So yeah, you won't be underwhelmed for too long. Jesus. 44. Dalek. Again, watched it at the BFI. It ended and I turned to my friend, the George Sheard, and I said, yeah, it's perfect, isn't it? Then I was on the Battles in Fandom podcast and I had to argue against Dalek to the same guy. And yeah, I can't do it. But what I came up with in that podcast to try and shit on Robert Shearman's magnum opus, it's a very insecure script. And it's because a key motivation of Dalek is undoing all of the reputational damage to them in pop culture. It worked on me as a kid, but remember, I was a kid. I wasn't aware that Daleks were lame and used in cigarette commercials, and had an egg whisk arm. I didn't care. It's a very Wilderness Years priority. Shearman said he made a tick list of every British joke made at their expense, and yeah, the story doesn't have much time. but it always seems to have time for correcting the audience. No, the Daleks are not defeated by stairs. No, the sink plunger is not silly. No, we know they look like dustbins, but they're super scary. It's an odd usage of time, when you can just prove that the Daleks mean business by doing. The Stolen Earth is not insecure about the Daleks, is it? It just has them wreck shop. It's not nerdy. It's not nerdy is one of the main beats of Dalek. And it's just a matter of circumstance as to when the episode came out. I get that. The revival did have a lot to prove, and a lot of negative connotations against it, but I genuinely do not think that aspect has aged well. And Shearman knows this as well, because in the novelization that stuff is kind of downplayed. Cool, moving on. 33, Warrior's Gate. Well, it was a fucking mess of a production. How about that? I'll keep this one simple, because it's so ambiguous a story. I don't need to get into its more far-flung ideas in this. I'll just say that it's another crap exit for a companion. The two weak links here are a weak exit for Romana, a companion who at this point deserves better than the Tom Baker companion departures can provide, and the sidecast. The bad guys are crap. Very one note in Warrior's Gate. Maybe it's been a while, but they are there to wear uniforms and chase around Doctor Who. They feel very perfunctory. That's a great word. Let's keep that in the edit. 32. Death to the Daleks. Yeah, over Genesis and over Remembrance, I know. Over Dalek. That man, Nick Briggs, was cooking. The parts of this story that are commonly laughed at, I think are really charming. The bad cliffhangers, the terrible ill-fitting music, the Exelons in general, just the look of them. Love, 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 but I'd be deluded if I said that they weren't objective problems. So yeah, all of the above, but it doesn't actually hold the story back in any meaningful way. The creativity is too much. It's too fun for any of that stuff to truly matter. But hey. 31. Day of the Daleks. I don't know, the original cut. The special edition did this thing a solid. I'm sorry that I have to be the one to say it. I think it's the tricycle. Yeah, you can add in more Daleks in post. You can make beautiful CGI city vistas. You can do so much to help a classic story along with a bit of TLC. But there's no amount of work in the edit room that can save John Pertwee and Katie Manning riding a little kiddie trike away from Gorilla Men and then following at a very modest pace. It's iconic. To me, it is a selling point of Day of the Daleks, but no, come on now. Let's not be silly about this. If you wanted an objectively great episode of Doctor Who with nothing embarrassing in it, you would have to cut the trike scene entirely. Moving on. 30. Thin Ice. Lord Bothington is a broad performance. I don't even remember his name. He is Lord Bothington, and he gets punched the fuck out by Doctor Who. A villain like this doesn't have to be interesting, because we've already got their register, don't we? We already know who this guy is. But Thin Ice spends so much time on its setting and its main Doctor-companion conflict that all we meet are cliches. You know it's true, we meet Grunt, Victorian Orphan, and Lord Toff. Oh, and maybe the odd, Victorian working class guy. That's what we get. We're painting firmly within the lines on this one. I think at least one character going against stereotype could have been interesting, I guess. It's not really a make or break. I never think of this when I'm watching the story and go, oh, I wish this orphan had a unique personality trait. No, that's orphan number 3. And orphan number 3 is doing a great job in the story. Just the odd surprise might have been nice. 29. Demons of the Punjab. Now, I've been wondering lately, has this one just been over-mythologized? Have we ran with the one good story of Series 11 and made it into something bigger than it is? Better than Genesis? I think. than Heaven Sent? Yeah. Yeah, no, I still hold on to that. I think it's that good. The scene that Graham and Yaz share, it just raises a bit of a question mark. I don't think it advances anything or is particularly interesting. Ryan, Graham, you don't need to have a hot take on every episode. You don't need to say something in every scene. In such a tight, compact script, I scratch my head on this one, and it became a bit of a running joke in the episodes ahead when it became a pattern. The Graham scene. The Graham takes you to the side and tells you how great he thinks you're doing scene. Thank you, old timer. I didn't ask. Actually, as a fairly good guy, but still a British older bloke, he should be our main British voice in this story. He shouldn't have to represent all of colonialist Britain, but the responsibility does kind of fall on him a little bit, doesn't it? And if this is all that Graham's got to offer the story, maybe there's some missed potential there. But no, we don't need a story about white guilt. That's not what Punjab is. Yeah, I don't know. Odd use of Graham, I guess. At least Ryan is just chilling, hanging out, enjoying the wedding. 28. Marco Polo. Ooh. I wake up in the dead of night sometimes, afraid that if we got this one back, it wouldn't be as good as we all thought. Let's say that this is a bewildering choice of story. A crazy assignment for a 1960s production crew. Like, I've seen The Wet Planet, I've seen The Chase. I bet in that studio they could give it a great go. I don't need to be convinced that we're really on the Silk Road, but what an insane assignment to give this new TV show. Alien world, then we need to be in the desert for a long period of time. From telesnaps and on-set photos, it looks like a gorgeous production, but when we're out in the wilderness, I guess we don't have any proof as to whether they pulled it off or not. All the same, an insane assignment, for better and for worse. Maybe even if we got it back, the target novelization would remain the ultimate version of the story, where you can fill in the colour and the scope yourself. 27. The Silurians. Okay, no, I know this. So you get to spend a lot of time with the paranoid human in the conflict, don't you? It's a diplomatic tale, but you've got one bad human and one bad twitchy Silurian, ultimately, who mess it all up. Neither are particularly interesting characters, but they are fine functions. I posit to you now a story where we'd give just a little bit more sensitivity to the Silurians, because, hey now, we're talking about indigenous people in this one. A reverse play on the fears of British colonialism. These are big topics. Let's maybe give just a little bit more time into Mr. Bad Silurian's motivation. Because if you're doing this allegory, and the best motivation you've got for the alien bog monster is entitlement, isn't it? That's the driving motion of the Silurian camp, is entitlement to the planet. That gets a bit messy, that gets a bit confused. That might confuse the allegory. And that's true, but I just think we could have got a little bit more of an interesting character out of Mr. Evil Silurian Man. The most pivotal role in the whole thing could have been the most interesting character. Later Silurian stories get very, very good at this, with good motivations for the Silurians. But listen, it's early days. We're shaking the bog monster's hand. That's a good start for Doctor Who. But a bit more curiosity would not have gone amiss before we start busting out the T-Rex and the plague. They are borderline unreasonable, you might say, and it makes the story just a fraction less interesting than it could have been. Next, the Talons of Weng Chiang. Fuck's sake. God's sake. So it's a biggie. The story is dog-fucked. It's racist as all sin. Well, as racist as Mr. Sin. There is no reason, fanfic, on the page, performance-wise, why Doctor Who would ever be engaging in this level of human prejudice. Casual Victorian racism, he's just blending in. No. It really, truly was not acceptable then, and there's not a plot reason that explains it away. It'd be weird if Hartnell was doing it. Never mind the alien Tom Baker. It makes him seem small, and it makes him seem human, which is really working against what this era's done, right? I will still maintain this is a 10 out of 10 episode in every other respect. It's so good. There's even moments where it does have a little bit of nuance. Well, as much nuance as you can have for an actor in yellow face. Listen, there's a giant rat, and they fix the giant rat. But I think there's a bigger elephant in the room, myself. A jade elephant. There's not much getting past it, and it's bad. There's lots of bad media out there, and unfortunately some of it is quite good. Essential viewing, even. 25. The Romans. My issue with this is a little bit similar. We're in the 1960s, maybe we truly did not know better yet, in terms of cultural attitudes. This one's very rapey. There's some very adult themes in here for 1964 kids to enjoy. We've got Barbara being chased around by Nero. We've got pretty intense depictions of slavery. Like, we don't downplay those for the humour. And it's a bit of a clash. I think it's tonally very jarring. And ultimately, it just goes to show that even though Will Hartnell is here, the pure era of Doctor Who and Carry On are not very complementary. It's a strange fusion, and it makes the unsavoury parts feel even weirder than they actually are. Yeah, it works, and I love the 60s because they are trying something truly different every other week. But the premise, the sheer premise of the Romans is an unflattering one that we don't try again. But God, it's good. God, it's good. Would never work outside of the 1960s. Never ever. 24. A Town Called Mercy. Yeah, I've been ride or die for this one since day one. Huge side cast in this story, and you won't remember any of them. Even the slightly more likeable ones of the bunch are cookie cutter. And it's not like I loved the main villain, there's not that much there, but it's more the reactions he inspires in other characters. There's also that horse joke. yeah, no, this is a real laundry list now, huh? The Moffat run loves the triggered joke. My horse identifies as ... Absolute classic, that. No, please, keep trying it, it'll get funny eventually. 23. The Invasion. The Invasion is... I'm so biased with this serial. I truly did grow up on this. They fight an answering machine for 2 episodes. That's the go-to gag I always say. They didn't bring Isabel Watkins along with them. The gang just meet the most colourful character in the classic show and leave her on Earth. That's a flaw. No, I think The Invasion takes its sweet time with the invasion, doesn't it? We are running rings with the characters around Vaughn's office for about 70% of the story. And then the Cybermen rock up very, very late. It's a late reveal, and then to actually arrive in the story proper, it's squeezed into the final 20 minutes, it feels like. If that. The story is called The Invasion. It's okay for the invasion to begin just a fraction earlier. I love this, but it is oddly paced, obviously. 22. Day of the Doctor. This one is paced perfectly. It's the perfect anniversary special. I don't know what to put here. The Zygons look a bit goofy, but that's fine. It's an anniversary special. We're not expecting any heavy lifting or societal themes of them this time. That's next time with Syria. Osgood has a couple duds. There's a couple scenes where I don't like Osgood. Back in the day, I was confused. I thought there was a line that implied that Clara was her sister. Or a cousin? I don't know. That's more of a user error scene. We've got to talk about the ending, don't we? We've got to talk about the way that Gallifrey is saved. The actual plot resolution on paper is junk. It's nothing. It's staggeringly easy to save Gallifrey. And look, all the cameos have arrived, and they're pressing buttons on the TARDIS console, and that saves the day. But you know what? In the cinema, I was in tears. Absolutely sticks the landing in presentation. Moffat earned his cake, and he gets to eat it too. There's nothing wrong with Day of the Doctor, but on paper, like, if it wasn't the medium of TV, how would that finale play in like prose? I've read it in prose. It kind of skirts around it and has to add more to it of the Doctors actually on the ground doing things. Oh, I know. Cup of soup. Yeah, we've really gone to the point in the video where I'm just critiquing individual lines now. It's twee, it's a terrible metaphor, and it's very cringe. Vengeance on Varos is like I stumbled upon someone's dirty, dirty deviant art. But I can't deny that it is art. It's pretty artistic, even. Sadistic, also, but artistic, absolutely. I don't think I have anything for this one. This might be my first proper actual skip. 'Cause, yeah... Where would you start? It's so honest about everything that it is. Let's go for a fandom cliche and say the acid bath scene. Sixth Doctor being violent, a little bit more zealous than he maybe should be. Yeah, sure. He kills a guy and then makes a James Bond style quip. Odd, but nothing that Pertwee or Baker would not have done before him. There's worse examples of this. The chloroform in Two Doctors, that's buck wild. But it does continue a weird pattern of the Sixth Doctor's ultraviolence, which never really gets a good payoff. Not even Big Finish does that really get explained. The Doctor just does that sometimes. I guess that's the best I've got. Carnival of Monsters would be the #1 recommendation I make for new fans, but it's not, and that's because they would have to get through the first 10 minutes. If you do not remember the first 10 minutes, let me reacquaint you. There's a bunch of aliens in aprons and terrible masks, and they're all squabbling around. There's about 20 or so, and they're going... So that's cool. And they're on a conveyor belt, they're packing boxes, they're getting boxes. And then these two show up, and then there's some blue guys. And it's absolute fucking alien nonsense dribble. After you get through that, you've got one of the best stories of all time. But how can I recommend this story with such an eccentric, weird wall that they would have to watch? That would be their first impression, and it is the first impression of Carnival of Monsters. It's absolute noise. 19. Day of the Moon. I have nothing. Truly, actually, seriously, I've sat here for about 10 minutes trying to think of something. And the best I could come up with is the beginning of unsatisfying arc mysteries. But that's not Day of the Moon's fault. What do we have? We have Rory and Amy deciding not to tell the Doctor about Lake Silencio. Okay, that's captivating, that's drama. In the moment, at the moment. We have a young regenerating girl on the streets of NYC. Great scene. What a way to kickstart a season. All of this stuff's really, really good in Day of the Moon. And Day of the Moon's like the perfect Doctor Who. It's so capable, it's like a blockbuster. Even the bizarre resolution, which has the Doctor transmit an execution order to the entire human race for the rest of time. It kinda works. It kinda works. I don't know why it works. They do address it in a passing line. But yeah, let's shoot that alien scum. I guess if that doesn't work for you, I understand. No, I got absolutely nothing at all. Day of the Moon is probably perfect. Good luck in the comments below. 18. So now that the challenge is officially failed, The Waters of Mars is the story I was talking about earlier when I was chatting about Father's Day. About such thing as little people. Waters of Mars is the ugliest side of Doctor Who, and as a result, the ugliest side of time travel, and it does seem to believe that little people do in fact exist. We know this because two historical figures just walk out of frame at the end, and everything's fine. And that's indicative of my general issue with Waters of Mars. By design, it's not got time for most of the incredibly interesting sidecast. We arrive in the middle of danger. These are the final moments of this crew's lives. And yet, you get such great snapshots. I know they're all very interesting characters from very little time spent with them. I just wish maybe we had more time for them to talk to each other. The Doctor is treating historical figures in this like he did in Fires of Pompeii. Like museum relics, like props. And so he only really humanizes Adelaide Brooke. You could argue he doesn't even do that. And it's just possible that in the survival necessity of the story given, we do waste one of the best sidecasts we've ever had. There was time. This was a long old story. I would have happily spent more time with this crew. We learned so much in Fires of Pompeii that it's a little unsatisfying as an adult to see all of that good work from Father's Day kind of thrown out. But it leads to the best of David Tennant, doesn't it? Ten's arc needed this. I'm just a bit curious about the order of events. 17. Caves of Androzani. Easy, we know it. We know it already. It's the lizard. It's the cave dragon. Look at him. Every single story needs a cave dragon. Even the best Doctor Who will have one little embarrassing detail, and this time it was a badly conceived and badly shot monster costume. All of our favourites have them. And if they'd only had an extra hour to think about how to light this thing, how to shoot this thing creatively, to conceal it just a little bit, it could save so many of these old monster designs. It's not a deal breaker, but it's a shame that even something this good has a gotcha joke attached to it. A Christmas Carol. Obviously, we've been dealing with 10 out of 10s for a while, but I need to iterate how fucking good A Christmas Carol is. I'm shocked it's not in my top 10. If there's a weak link, though, it's probably an Abigail. When we have the Doctor at his most elusive, character development like Kazran, you need a really good third supporting character to keep up with two powerhouses. And Abigail is not that. She's a fairly generic love interest. She has a lot of time in this story, and all she's used for is her relationship to another man. She travelled with the Doctor, for God's sake. And listen, the Doctor's playing with these people like they're toys. A true chess master Doctor Who story. But I don't know, you had the time, I think. I understand why he loves her, I don't understand why she loves him. Next, the chase. Okay, so you can laugh at Daleks screaming as they fall off the ship. You can laugh at the bad duplicate of William Hartnell. You can even laugh at Mr. Dracula. And I'd be laughing right along with you. The chase is a laugh a minute, but none of this stuff is even close to a negative. Nobody good, with good in their soul, would ever use that as a strike against the chase. If they would, I don't want to know those people. What's actually a bit overbearing? Well, Morton deals a lot, isn't he? Peter Purves plays two absolutely bonkers characters, two crazy big performances, much too large for the tiny 1960s TV set screen. It's a lot to handle, but I think I can live with Morton Deal. No, the flaw of this one is... it's like Remembrance, actually. Yeah, it's the same thing. The production's doing everything. It's going all out on everything except the Daleks. Every time you cut back to their ship, it's looking more and more sorry by the second. They've got cardboard cutouts in the background. There's scant Dalek parts all over the place. One of them's missing the bottom ring. They just look sorry for themselves in ways that were intentional and ways that were unintentional. It looks like an absolute prop cupboard mess over there. Production miracles on everything except for the Daleks. The poor, poor bastards. 14. The Mind Robber. The Wrestler. The Wrestler is a bit of a crap scene. A rare dud in one of the best. You know what, you could probably have just put Superman in there. If Doctor Who could have ever have gotten away with that, it would have been this story right here, right then. There's definitely tonal whiplash. Episode 1 is a mood piece, it's very atmospheric, but it has nothing in common with the rest of the serial. It's a bit of a head scratcher. It's great, and definitely gives the story a nightmarish kind of driftiness. Yeah, no, that works. But it's also so quiet. We're in the TARDIS with not a lot happening. Our characters are going to sleep, really, for 25 minutes. And I'm just wondering, when do we get to the fun Cuckoo Land? Alice in Wonderland does not spend 100 pages before chasing the rabbit. Boom boom boom, easy. 13, The Time Warrior. It's another perfect one. Oops. I guess if you were gonna try Fault the Time Warrior, it'd have to be like a tiny little production nitpick, like a boom mic in shot, or an impossibly minor wardrobe malfunction. I don't know. It's the Time Warrior. In the comments, try tell me anything that's wrong with the Time Warrior. I'll listen, but I won't agree. Failed. Number 12, Family of Blood. I think it's all very intentional. Paul Cornell is not blind to the way the Doctor is treating Martha. But that's a bag of worms that I don't need to touch, you know? Instead I'm going to go for Latimer. A really great performance from the Eternal Boy, but he feels like a leftover of the novel, maybe. I don't know. Well, I haven't read the novel. It's the way he skirts around the plot. And then the story ends on him. The story has 2 or 3 really good endings in a row. And then after the punishment of the family, after that amazing, captivating scene with Redfern saying goodbye, we end with Latimer and a Remembrance Day ceremony. And don't get me wrong, I salute our troops. Touching ending. I don't get the thematic connection to the rest of the story. It doesn't feel like the core of what we've been doing here. Am I wrong? Am I really just wrong? That's fine, but that's what I'm putting for my pick. I don't get the ending. I don't get Latimer. Number 11. Kill the Moon. I don't talk about this story anymore with anybody who hasn't read Darren Mooney's seminal essay on the topic. Seriously, I've done my time, I've been in the trenches. I understand why smarter commentators than me see where the story goes and decide to write it off as the pro-life episode of Doctor Who. It's like Peladon, right? Curse of Peladon. It's clearly about the EU. That's what Peladon's about, but you can't take that to be a one-to-one parallel of Peladon is the UK. It's not. It's not that black and white. And in the same way, yeah, we're talking about a woman's choice in protecting or killing a young life. That's the jumping on point, and I get why the episode does not inspire a lot of people to give it good faith, to continue that train of thoughts. So you might owe it to your audience to be just a bit clearer. Get them on your side a bit more. Peter Harness has a genuinely strange political alignment. The story is anti-democratic, and there's just so much more at play, but you might not know it because the episode concerns itself largely with a Doctor Who twist. We're not on the moon battling spiders. They're antibodies, and there's a Doctor Who sci-fi rug pull. And maybe if we hadn't bothered with the subversion, and we just locked into a Star Trek style ethical dilemma, there'd be less confusion. Doctor Who is a different programme forever after that episode has aired. You're playing with big important things here, and you might owe your audience a little bit more of a lifeline. On to the top 10. And number 10 is probably going to surprise you. I'm goo goo gaga crazy over the Age of Steel. I love this thing. What's wrong with it? Nothing. It's the Age of Steel. The ending is cliche, and it's the Doctor getting Mickey to press a button and kill the bad guys. Again. Lumic. Really simple, raving lunatic villain. Both of these aren't issues for me. They're not. Because it's a broad blockbuster episode. I'm not sure, ultimately, what a couple extra lines for John Lumic would add to the finished thing. It's perfect. It's fine. Age of Steel gets overlooked like a lot of series too, because it's going for a big action spectacle. And if you're not watching it in 2006, but many, many years after the fact, it's less impressive. Age of Steel nails all of its priorities. It's just the ceiling isn't very high. It's all stakes, it's all scale, it's all effects, and it's all drama. There's so much emotion in this. If you're not big on Mickey Smith, look, I get it these days. But yeah, the ending of the episode may not land in the same way it does for me. Sometimes you can just have a raving lunatic trigger a zombie apocalypse, and that's fine. Number 9, Enlightenment. Easy, got it in one. It's the fact that the Black Guardian shows up. The season arc intrudes on Enlightenment. It does. It's the best 80s story they ever made. And still, the worst villain in the show's history has to crash the party. Unwelcome. Guys, settle this on your own time, preferably in a much worse story far away from this one. The wrap-up with Turlo isn't particularly compelling. It might even be worth turning it off before the end. God, I hate these guys. Stop reminding me of the 2 serials that preceded this one. Number 8, City of Death. Oh, okay. Well, it would have been nice to meet Leonardo da Vinci. Would have been nice. He was out at the time though, and that happens. City of Death. God, no, there's gotta be something. Maybe it's, go with me here. Scaroth. Count Scarlione is one of the best villains in the show, don't get me wrong, but the actual premise of Scaroth, Last of the Jaggeroth, going back to Event 1 to undo the human race, it's a bit too big. There's no need to impress us, we already had Julian Glover playing the suave Count Scarlione, we already had a great monster design. This finale is a bit wild. I think I might check out a little bit by the time we get here. The villain is a bit too ambitious, and it's needless. You don't need all that. Count Carlos Scaroth, Last of the Jaggeroth, saviour of his species. No, just hit the guy and let's go home. Number 7, The Satan Pit. It's perfect. It's not aged a day. Miracle sidecast in miracle action set pieces. It's that Series 2 effect, man, I'm telling you. Kind of unbelievably good, but I suppose the day is saved by knocking over a vase, and that vanquishes Satan. So yeah. Holy hell, is this guy in the Pantheon? I said, is this guy in the Pantheon? Number 6, The Parting of the Ways. Ooh, so my brain leaps. It leaps to the Davis Ex Machina at the end. The first one, actually. Is it not a bit of an arse pull for Rose Tyler to suck in the TARDIS juice and then one-shot the story? Yes, but again, because it's done the heavy lifting emotionally, you're satisfied. TV history is being written as we speak. It truly does not matter how the day is saved in this one. But it does have a couple ramifications, doesn't it? As a teenager, I was left quizzical. And Series 1 comes to a real close before telling us, hey, is Jack alive? Jack's alive? He's immortal? Can we go back for Jack? What? I'm wondering, as a kid, can we just open the TARDIS and do this trick anytime? Huh, okay. I'm wondering if the human race is still alive in the far future. Emperor said something about purging the Earth with fire, huh? Are we good? I got lots of questions following Parting of the Ways, and some of them do get answered very, very retroactively. But I think, the fallout of Parting of the Ways. Lots of awkward little details. How does Jack get from the game station to Torchwood? Again, we find out, but it's a bit limp. And it's very awkward, especially at the time of transmission. Series 1 comes to a real quick close, and we don't have time for all these inconvenient questions. On to Christmas. Number 5, The End of Time, Part 2. There's a lot of things that other people could say for this. I love End of Time Part 2. It's the story I've imprinted on the most, but let's talk about that finale. I mean, we could just cheat. We could just say, Matching Mickey and Martha is weird and dodge, and a universally hated decision. There's that. But I also think it's kind of funny that the prolonged regeneration, the goodbye tour. He's seeing Joe, he's off to see Redfern's ancestors, and every single time with this forlorn ghost of Christmas past look on his face before he gets to Rose and starts blubbering like a baby. It gets a bit comical after the 5th time you've seen him do it. Come on, Doctor, you're saying goodbye to everyone. You're dying very slowly. You're seeing all of your friends, and you're doing them a solid. You can have some, crack a smile. I love the goodbye tour, but it's not without pretty obvious issues. Number 4, The Stolen Earth. It's tricky, because everything you dislike about this is probably just in Journey's End. The Harriet Jones beat. Right, I'm not bashing on it. It does play, it does work. I'm just saying, compared to every other banger scene in a row, the Harriet Jones beat on paper is really dorky. It is, especially when it was a placeholder in the scripting phase, and that spot could have gone to Mr. Swift or Elton Pope. You know, it's dorky. Penelope Wilton pulls it off, but that is the only moment of the massive crossover where I'm wondering, what are we doing here? Yeah, we'll go with the Subwave network. It gives them something to do, but it's silly. Number 3, Twice Upon a Time. I've justified it enough to you people. You sick little people. Twice Upon a Time might over-exaggerate some of the humour, intentionally. We're playing with how far society has come since the 1960s. And both the 12th Doctor and the 1st Doctor are used as avatars for this and get teased in equal amounts. Have fun with it. Oh, I know what I'm going to go for. It's the thing I always have a little nag about. Moffat's insistence on nerdy little detail, fan minutiae excuses. I mean when Capaldi meets Bradley and he has to say out loud why he doesn't look like William Hartnell. Come on, man. We get it. We don't care. We are not the comic book guy. We laugh at the comic book guy. We all get it. Let's get on with it. That's actually a flaw that all 3 showrunners share. A tendency to over-explain the fan stuff. There's lots of jokes made about the fan priorities in this story in particular, but that one's not a joke. That one is pretty sincere. Number 2, Curse of Peladon. Agador? No, I don't want to pick on Agador. There is something about the BBC and their inability to make convincing furry creatures every single time they end up with like a Disneyland walk-around character. But Agador is friend, and Agador is friend-shaped in the end, so it's fine. Let's instead say the British version of this story, they can't even conceive of telling it without the royal perspective. A story about tradition should involve some monarchy, probably, but they're always the good guy, and it's always quite uncomplicated suddenly when the monarch is on screen. Yeah, there we go. A product of its time and of its people. There are a great many things to consider about tradition and unity and moving forward with our neighbours, but not the monarchy. That institution needs to stay. Number 1, Time of the Doctor. Forever favourite, will never be beaten. What an anticlimax to end on, because you know what's wrong with Time of the Doctor, and I know it. It's that Moffat throws out so many jokes, and some of them are so bad that not all of them land. It's a pretty good fire rate, but the wig scene, it's a dud. More of that Moffat over-explaining that I was talking about just a second ago. And there's a couple in here. But like I say in my Who track on this topic, Moffat's sitcom gags are basically his shorthand, and that's how he delivers us into the good stuff, eventually. I have been recording for a very long time. I did fail this assignment, but I think it made for a good enough video. If you've got any issues on my horrendous taste, let's face it, you've already left the YouTube comment. But do focus on my justifications and the criticisms I found, the copes I came up with, and less so, the list itself. I can't guess everyone's taste. Thank you. The link to the Ko-fi's in the description. That would be huge about now. I love you. Take care.